Yes, it's taken best part of 10 weeks, but I know the reasons why.
There's a pair of these, and you can actually see the old silicone sealer that someone had tried to put on there.
Hey guys, Raj Sangha of Cardi Security. Welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Raj's Garage, and I'm here with my E30 M3 Convertible, which I haven't driven for nearly a year. So I think it's time we gave it some love. So yes guys, my E30 M3 Convertible, which I've had for nearly 2 years. Last time I gave this car some love was over a year ago when I dropped it off to Deutsche Tech because it was running like a bag of They've sorted all that out, and that was back in June when I picked it up. And since then, it's been parked up in the lockup. We've tried to fix the electric hood. We even bought another motor off eBay, a second-hand motor. That didn't work. We tried to make one good working motor out of the two. That didn't work. And now, guys, we've given up. So we thought, you know what? We're going to drop it off to some specialists, because before I can go any further, I need to fix the hood. So today we are going over to BMR Performance in Turner's Hill, and hopefully, once I've spoken to Barry, they'll be able to fix the hood. So guys, let's get in the car and let's get over to Turner's Hill. So guys, I'm here at BMR Performance, Turner's Hill, about 5 miles outside of Crawley. I'm here with Barry.
How's it going, Raj?
I'm good, yourself?
Very good, thank you.
The last time I came down, the weather was just abysmal. And I came in my E30 M3 Coupe, and you gave that car some serious love, and that car just drives so different. So thank you for that.
No problem.
So I thought, with the weather being so nice, I'll come in my convertible.
Good choice.
But I can't get the roof down. The issue with the roof is the motor, and you know, it's a common problem.
They can be quite temperamental, yeah.
We've had to play around with it ourselves. We managed to find another motor off eBay. We still can't get it to work properly. So I thought, you know what, before I can progress further on with the project, get it over to you guys, fix the roof. So yeah, this is a later car, and I know off camera you mentioned there's 2 types of roof mechanisms, if you want to just...
That's right, yeah. The earlier E30s, when they offered a power soft top, it had an electro-hydraulic system, and it's quite a complex system, not very reliable, and you pretty much struggle to get parts from now. So they revised it in about 89 from memory to a fully, well, I say fully, it was just an electric only system. They done away with the hydraulics. So it has just electrical motors and linkages. Much more reliable system. Parts availability is better. You can't get everything, but again, it's still not the most reliable system, hence here we are. But it's a better base to start with, and we've got a chance of getting it working rather than the earlier system, which can be problematic.
The earlier system is what I had on my E30 Motorsport convertible, and that from factory was an electric roof. And now I know why it was converted to manual, because trying to get the parts for it, just
exactly that.
Horrendous.
Exactly that.
So in the boot, if I just show you the boot, we have left the motors hanging. They're disconnected, so it makes the life a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
And in this little box here is the old motor.
Yeah.
So you may be able to make one good motor out of 2. Hopefully you can. And then I can get on with the rest of the project. So I think, to be fair, there's not really much more I need to say, not much more you can say. I just need to give you the keys.
Thank you.
And leave the car in your hands, and I'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks or so to pick up the car, and we'll talk about the next stage for the E30 M3 Convertible. back at BMR Performance in Turner's Hill, and my E30 M3 Convertible is ready to collect. Now, it's been a while. What should have taken a month has taken 2.5 months, and predominantly that's because of parts delays. Some of the parts weren't available in the UK, so they had to be ordered through Germany. And some of these parts I didn't think that BMR Performance could get. They've managed to get hold of them. And when I got an email the other day with the bill, I literally myself, because I wasn't expecting a bill 3 pages worth of parts and obviously labor to boot. And I'll show you the bill towards the end of this episode. But now the car's over there. Let's grab Barry. We'll talk about the parts and we'll talk about the problems that he encountered along the way and why it took so long. So guys, let's grab Barry. Barry.
Hi Raj, how's it going?
Good, how are you? The car's here, it's all ready, it's all done from what I understand. And I think it's time you went through everything that you've managed to change on the car. The list is considerably longer than I anticipated, and so is the bill. Well, first of all, 10 weeks it's been here, give or take.
It has, yeah. Mainly down to parts, yeah. We were waiting for some parts to come off of back order, and parts is becoming a real issue with older BMWs now, even
yes.
Ones that a lot of people don't consider that old, but they are getting on a bit now. Parts are becoming not available or long lead times, so yeah, caused a bit of a delay with this one.
Before we get into the roof,
yeah,
let's talk about the other bits and pieces that you've replaced and some of the parts you've had to do and some of the service and maintenance work. So there was a fuel leak when I dropped the car to you.
That's right.
And you investigated that and it needed a petrol tank.
It did indeed, yeah. Common issue on E30s, they got a metal fuel tank. They corrode around the filler neck where it joins onto the tank, or where the spout is and the rubber hose comes down. And it just corrodes around there, so when you fill it above half full, it just gradually leaks out. Really common issue on E30s, so it just needed a new fuel tank to rectify that. But we did a lot of other work that, we did a checking report on the car, and we found a load of age-related bits and pieces that many E30s now need.
This car's over 30 years old.
Exactly that. So a lot of rubber items, brake hoses, fuel hoses, bushes for the rear axle, various bits of rubber underneath were just original or just really past their best.
And you've replaced all of those?
Well, the majority of them have been replaced, the ones that needed doing. All the gear linkage bushes and joints as well, they were just worn out.
Yeah, I could feel that when I was driving the car.
Plus a bunch of gaskets and seals on the engine as well that were leaking. Not major leaks, but they were sweating out and they've been for some time, so it makes sense to get them done.
Brake lines have been changed as well?
Brake hoses, yeah. Yep, we've done all the brake hoses they look to be the original 30-year-old ones, so they're all been replaced. And we looked at a running issue with the engine as well. It had a rough idle.
Shall we pop the bonnet?
Yeah, sure. So, common issue on the S14 is the inlet manifold blocks, and they're basically rubber blocks that sit between the throttle bodies and the cylinder head.
Sure.
They act as a gasket seal and also to insulate the throttle bodies from vibrations from the engine, being a big capacity 4-cylinder. Over time, the rubber, again, just like the rubber underneath the car, it just gets hard, brittle, doesn't seal correctly, and you get an air leak, so it's drawing air in, unmetered air, past the airflow meter. Right. And it causes it almost to have a rough idle and have an incorrect mixture.
Which was one of the biggest issues I had.
The inlet manifold gasket blocks, someone had been there before, because we found evidence of that they've been silicon sealed.
Have you still got that?
Yeah, we got them in the boot, yeah.
Shall we grab it?
Yeah. So here's one of them here. There's a pair of these, and you can actually see the old silicon sealer that someone had tried to put on there to seal them, and it's basically around these mounting flanges here where you've got the intake port with air passing through, and it just leaks out. So yeah, someone had tried to repair them before. So we've got 2 brand new ones of them on there.
Fantastic.
Set the car back up on the emissions tester, so the CO and the emissions are all running correctly, and the engine's running great with a nice idle as well, and it should also perform better.
So the engine's done, the brakes have been done, well, the brake lines, brake hoses have been replaced, fuel tank's been replaced, and obviously that smell of fuel leaking is no longer there. Let's talk about the hood. The challenge with the hood.
The soft top.
Let me tell you guys, in the UK, there's hardly anybody that's prepared to touch the hood on the E30 M3s, especially when it's electric hood. If it's a manual hood, they don't mind. The electric hood, they all cause problems, and I wanted to keep it original. I did source a couple of motors, which I gave to you. They were shot, were they?
Yeah, basically.
And you managed to source 2 brand new motors, which I didn't think actually you could anymore.
Yep.
So we have a look at these fresh motors, guys.
We've left the carpet trimmed down so you can actually see the 2 new motors here. You've got one, this is for the hood cover, flap drive, and then you've got this one over here, which is the actual motor that operates the roof folding mechanism. Really common for wearing out and cracking casings and cracking actually the skin where the motor's bolted to.
Right. Now, although the roof is working, you've done the best you can do, really.
Well, so the roof works mechanically and electrically, but there is also one important part on these electric soft tops. On these roofs, they have a tension strap which runs from the front to the back, and it's like a giant rubber band, basically, or a rubber strap. And as the roof operates and folds, it keeps the different hoop sections taut. So when it folds, it puts them in the right position so all the hood cover can come up and clear, and then it all folds back and tucks the fabric nicely. Over time, they stretch, so you then have to tuck the roof, which is a pain because you want to sit in the driver's seat and just hit that button once and it folds back. So quite often when people get their soft tops replaced, they don't have the tension straps done and they still have the same issue. As you can see,
yes,
as the roof's folding, these tension straps, they're not doing their job.
So this should be sucking this
that should be pulling that all the way back like that.
And that there, okay.
And
even
the other sections.
Even here you can see it's getting caught as well.
So what that stops happening, or what it prevents, is the roof folding correctly all the way and allowing that to shut fully.
And the last thing I want to do is put any pressure on those motors because I'll damage the motors.
Exactly that.
Okay, so but at least we know the roof is now functioning correctly. It's actually the hood that's causing the problem, which for me is a marked improvement on where we were a few months ago when I couldn't even get the hood open. It is what it is. As I said earlier, parts are very difficult to source and nobody wants to work on these cars. Would you agree, Barry?
Yeah,
they're not the easiest cars to work on.
Most people say just convert them to manual.
Exactly that, but I didn't want to do that. I think Barry's age, since I gave him this car 2.5 months ago, he's probably glad to get the car out of here. But as you can see, guys, the roof now is functioning to a degree. Once we replace the hood and the tension straps, we'll be back, and then Barry will just make sure it's realigned. But for now, I'm going to leave Barry because he's got a lot on his plate. I need to settle this bill, and I'll show you this bill, the whole bill, in a few moments. And we'll have a chat in the car, and then when we get back to Cass, I'll tell you what the next stages are for the E30 M3 Convertible. Right guys, I'm super excited to be back in this car. The gearbox, and I've had a little play with it earlier on, it feels so tight. Before there was just so much play in every gear change, and now it just feels perfect. Let's start it up. On the button. Previously the revs were all over the place, the engine was hunting, even on standstill, so the revs would shoot up to 1800 RPM and then go back down to 400. In some cases the car would stall. Now it's perfect, it's sitting at about 800-900 RPM, which is perfect. Gonna need some fuel, hit the check light. You know what? Car sounds sweet, absolutely amazing. Let's go, guys. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me. Now, I did want to drive back with the hood down, but I think because the hood and the tension straps are still somewhat, I don't know what's the best word to use, faulty, or it's probably not a good idea to do that. So I'm driving with the hood up and the windows down. Now straight away, as I pull off, massive difference, guys, night and day difference. It's got some torque now. Previously it was just all over the place. The gearbox, there was so much play in each gear, including the actual box itself. It now feels extremely tight. Fourth gear, give it some beans. Yeah, it's moving. I'm really happy with the way this car is driving. Now, obviously, I'm gonna wait for it to warm up before I give it some beans, so I might do that just before I hit the M25. However, I am super impressed. Yes, it's taken best part of 10 weeks, but I know the reasons why. Am I complaining? Not at all. And to be fair, I'd run out of space at the lockup anyway, so Barry did me a favor keeping the car that little bit longer. Most importantly, I know the car is now sorted. There are a lot of BMW guys that will not attempt to tackle these E30 M3s because they know the parts availability is so poor, and the last thing they want is a car sitting around either on a ramp which they can no longer use, or just having to sit in one corner of their workshop. They're having to pull it in and out and all that nonsense. So I'm super impressed with Barry and his team. I knew they would smash it out of the park, and that's exactly what they've done. So guys, if you've got a classic BMW, even if you've got a new BMW, and I was just there now and someone pulled up in a 3-4-year-old M2, these guys are absolutely brilliant. They're Turner's Hill, south of the M25, not too far from Gatwick, so they're accessible to everybody. The worst part of the journey is the M25, but most importantly, it's what they do to the BMWs, which is so satisfying and rewarding to someone like me, a customer who just wants to be able to drive his car and enjoy it. Now, I can feel probably need wheel alignment. Now, these are temporary wheels on the car. I do need wheel alignment, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to this car. This is one of few stages. So the best thing to do, when I get back to CAS HQ, I'll talk about the next stages. And as I mentioned earlier, there are quite a few stages to get this car looking right, performing well, and running right. Well, actually running right, tick box, that's already done. Let's get back to CAS HQ now. Right guys, this car has never driven as well as that. Even though I was stuck on the M25 for a good 45 minutes, the 20 minutes or so I had before that, this car was just so planted. That engine now is running sweet, no longer has that rough idle issue, just on the button starts, and when I was stuck in traffic, it just sat at 850, 900 RPM. The only drawback is there's no AC, so it was friggin' hot in there. So guys, I am super excited to have it back. For a while, I forgot that I even had it. And in between, I've bought another 2 convertibles whilst I've dropped this car off to BMR, which is even weird. So now I've got 3 convertibles. Well, at least the weather's half decent. So yeah, thanks to Barry and the team at BMR Performance. They've done an absolutely amazing job, smashed it at the park. Recommend these guys thoroughly. Their details are down below in the description. Anything BMW and Mini related, hit them up. On the button, let's pop the bonnet. No longer is it idling, lumpy, no longer is it hunting, it's running fairly smooth. S14 engine, they tend to run a little rough anyway, but this is not running like it was prior to dropping it off at BMR. Right guys, so let me show you the invoice. I've covered up some of the labor costs because BMR have looked after me on price, but just to give you an idea of some of the parts costs, if you look there, you've got the fuel tank. That was £487. These prices are all excluding VAT. If I flip over, you've got 2 of the motors there and there. I've highlighted both. Each of the motors is nearly £849, again excluding VAT. And then finally, the total bill As you see it there, labour £1,848, parts £3,683. Then you got the VAT, and obviously the total amount is there, and that's what I've paid. But guys, it doesn't matter what I've paid. The car is night and day difference from when I dropped the car off to BMR all those weeks ago to picking the car up today. So well worth the money. I know guys, the engine bay needs a good clean, but there's a lot more that needs to be done before we start tackling cleaning the engine bay. So let me just turn this off and let me tell you what else needs to be done on this car. Now guys, before I get into any of that, before I touch the interior, the suspension, the roof, before I even do the audio, in fact this car doesn't have a Clifford alarm, so I've got to add an alarm at some point. First thing I want to do is the paintwork. Now on camera you guys are probably thinking there's nothing wrong with the paint. Well actually there is. The car was painted by the previous owner prior to my purchase, and I don't think they did a great job. We'll try and get some clips and put them on screen. There's issues with 2 or 3 panels, like for example on the front wing you can see the rub marks, the prep marks underneath the paint, and I don't want to do patchwork because I don't think you'll be able to get the colour to match. So I know who's doing the paintwork. We will get him down in a week or 2, he'll assess the car, and then he can decide, do we just paint the whole car, do we strip it back, or do we do sections? So I'm going to leave that to him. So yeah, the next step will be paint. Guys, thanks for watching. E30 M3 Convertible update. Next episode will be the paint episode, so keep an eye on the socials for that. It'll probably be a few weeks from now, so I'm not going to leave it as long as I have done. This is one of my keepers, so it's part of my personal fleet. It's not a car that I've purchased to modify and flip, so this will sit nicely alongside my E30 M3 Coupe. Guys, obviously if you like this episode, smash that like button, make sure you've subscribed to the channel, and I will be back on another episode on Cast TV soon. See you guys later.